This is super important. This is it. This is how you solo in any key and play in any key. This is the answer. Before I start the video again, there's 2 free PDFs. Down in the description below, there's links. I don't want your email. I don't want your money. I don't want to send you 100 emails about the program I've developed.
Hurry up and buy.
It's just 2 free PDFs. Download them to help you memorize these 5 patterns. You're going to have a good time once you've memorized these patterns because you'll be able to play in key. Back to the video. So the first big goal that most guitarists have is to be able to play in key all over the fretboard. And to do that, you need a map. And so I'm going to put on the screen the G major scale patterns, the 5 patterns for G major. And E minor is the relative minor of G major. So you're really learning the E natural minor scale as well. And so I'm going to put G major on the screen. And you can see all 7 notes in G major. And if you're thinking, but
that's great and all, how am I going to memorize all that?
Well, we're going to break it down into 5 patterns just like we did the pentatonic, and that way you can connect the entire fretboard and be able to solo and come up with lead lines in any key that you're in. The major scale is probably the most important thing, or at least one of the most important things you'll ever learn in music in general, Western music, or for guitar or for piano or anything, because the major scale is the key. So if we want to play in any key, we're going to use these scale patterns to help us do that. The good thing is they fit over the pentatonic patterns. The pentatonic scale is a pentatonic scale or a 5-note scale. The major scale is a heptatonic scale. That means it has 7 notes. And so we've just added 2 notes to our pentatonic patterns that we already have. You'll notice in these diagrams, again, I used scale degrees. In other words, I used the numbers 1 through 7 to represent the G major scale. So instead of saying G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and then back to G again, I just said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, back to 1 again. The reason for that is because I want you to recognize that this is universal. You can use this for any key. So if you want the key of B flat, you take note 1, the first scale degree of these major scale patterns, you put note 1 on a B flat. So here's a B flat. Here's a B flat. You just put note 1 there so that you've got your pentatonic, and then you'll have your major scale pattern there. So you can play in B flat. We're going to do it in G major, but you can do it in whatever key you want to. All you have to do is move that first degree to be on top of whatever key you want to play in. As we go through the patterns, there's about 4 things or so I want you to keep in mind and take special note of. Within the 5 pentatonic patterns, there was only 2 finger positions. If we take our G major pentatonic pattern, for instance, there's a space of that distance, which is called a whole step. Then there's a minor third distance. Whole step, whole step, whole step, minor third, whole step. That's it. You go to that next pattern, whole step, whole step, whole step, minor third, whole step. So just like there was only 2 possible finger positions there, with your major scale, these particular major scale patterns, because there are other variations that you can learn, but to stick to the 5 patterns, which I prefer because they stack so that you have your cage system as a foundation. On top of that, you have your arpeggio. On top of that, you have your pentatonic scale shapes. And then on top of that, your major scale shape. And they get more complex as you go up. But just like the pentatonics, there's only so many finger positions. And so in this case, there's only 3. So the finger positions for these major scale patterns are, if I number our fretting hand, 1 for the index finger, 2 for the middle finger, 3 for the ring finger, and 4 for the pinky finger. If we use the thumb, we'll call it T, although I don't think we will for this video. Then we have 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4. So there's 5 patterns, and within those 5 patterns, there's only 3 positions your fingers are going to be in. Notice how they repeat. Notice you'll have 2 of the 1, 2, 4, and then the next one will be a 1, 3, 4, and the next one will be a 1, 3, 4, and then you'll have your 2-note pattern, and then it'll go back to the, you'll see as we go along. The second thing I want you to keep in mind is that each of these patterns contains one of the pentatonic patterns. So pattern 1 of the pentatonic goes in pattern 1 of the major scale. Pattern 3 of the pentatonic will go in pattern 3 of the major scale. They all line up. And so I'll also reference the caged chords as we're going through, and I'll do a video on caged later. But that's caged is just yet another way to map out the fretboard. That's all we're doing is we're mapping out the fretboard. The third thing, I want you to always remember your root. Remember that the root determines what key you're in. So if your root is on A, then you're in the key of A. And if your root is on D, then we play in D. So wherever you move the one note, you need to know your note names on the guitar. You need to know that you're tuned to E, A, D, G, B, E. And then you need to be able to understand the musical alphabet. If you don't know that, it's just the letters A through G. And then between each letter, there's another note. And sometimes it might be called a sharp, or sometimes it might be called a flat. It just depends on what key you're in. So you won't have both sharps and flats, though. If you're in B flat, all the in-between notes will be called flat notes. And then if you're in E major, you'll have E, the second note will be F sharp. They're all sharps. So G sharp, A, B, and C sharp, and D sharp. So back to the alphabet, it's the letters A through G, and there's an extra note between each letter except for B and C and E and F. So to sharpen is to raise, to flatten is to lower. So if I play F major, the major chord below that is not F flat major or E sharp major, it's just E, because we don't have a sharp or a flat between E and F and between B and C. That's just something you have to remember. So that's the musical alphabet. But that's why I put the numbers 1 through 7 instead of the note names G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, because I want you to recognize, be very cognizant of the fact that you can use this for any key. This is super important. This is it. This is how you solo in any key and play in any key. This is the answer. These shapes are going to get you there. First, you learn the shapes, and it's not going to be very fun. It's probably not going to be super fun because you're just going to have to go up and down the neck. Boring. And over until your hands just know where to go. But eventually, it's going to start being fun because you'll go to jam with your friends or whatever, or you'll throw down some chords and know what key you're in. If you put down C, G, D minor, F, then you'll recognize that those chords mean you're in the key of C. And if you're in the key of C, you can play the C major scale, or some of that was C pentatonic, C major pentatonic, and then you can just do it for whatever key you want. So this is going to give you that freedom you're looking for. And that being said, if you have any questions, Put them in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them. Let's get to the patterns. So, pattern 1. We've got 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4. So you see I landed on the G, like I told you earlier. That's the 1 and it just feels better to land on it. Not all of these will have a 1 on the low string, but since that one does, it doesn't feel good to land on the 7. The 7th note is very dissonant. Your pentatonic scale's got very more consonant sound. That's why it's so good for soloing, and that's why everything sounds good. Those half steps are very dissonant. They rub together. They're very close. They don't give each other much space. And so that dissonance can be harsh, but remember, dissonance is also, when somebody dies in a movie, it's sad. It makes you uncomfortable. But the reason it makes you feel something is because it was dissonant. So understand, the dissonance in music is what makes it sound not like a boring childhood nursery rhyme. Not that they're boring when you're a little child, but we teach those to children because they're very simple. But when you're an adult, you might appreciate a little more depth to things. That's where these half steps will come in. So that's, by the way, that's a half step. Also in Jaws. Anyway, and then this is a whole step. That's the distance. Those are intervals. I want to do a video on intervals. Very important. But a half step is this far apart. And then a whole step is this far apart. All right. So beneath that, we have our pentatonic shape. So you can see how that fits inside of this major scale shape. And then inside this shape, we also have the E-shaped G chord. And that's part of your caged system. All right, so we're going to go over to pattern 2 now. Pattern 2 is going to have a hand shift. We haven't had one of those before. So a hand shift means you're going to have to slide your hand. You know, we've got 1 finger per string that we're doing here. You're going to have to slide your hand one way, and then you're going to have to slide it back the other. Okay? So it's going to be a 1, 3, 4, 1, 4 is how I play it. You can play it 1, 3. You can play it 2, 4 if you wanted to. I play it 1, 4. So 1, 3, 4, 1, 4, 1. Did you see that? We've shifted our hand. Now we're over here, and our fingers are lined up with these frets. At first, they were lined up with these frets. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Okay, so 1, 3, 4, 1, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4. Here we got another shift. 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4. Shift. 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 Okay, so be mindful of those hand shifts. You might just want to play just through the shifting parts. So you might play. And so on and so forth, if you're trying to get used to that hand shift. Also down here. You just might want to go back just on the shifting strings to get used to shifting your hand back and forth like that. Okay, and then we'll notice the pentatonic shape that's underneath here, major pentatonic pattern 2. And then we also have our D-shaped G chord. Okay, that's from the caged system. All right, so pattern 3, there's no hand shift in pattern 3. We have 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4. Okay, and then we also have our pentatonic pattern 3. And then we have our C-shaped G chord. So there's the root, and it's just like our C chord down here. We've moved it up here. That's the C-shaped G chord. Okay, pattern 4. We have 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, hand shift, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3. Shift. All right, remember, we've got that 2-note pattern, then we've got the 2 of the 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, then we've got 2 of the 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, and then back to the 2-note pattern. So keep in mind what's going on. Just like we started with a 1, 2, 4 in pattern 3, and then we went to a 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4. And so you know after the 2 of the 1, 3, 4s, you'll switch to the 2-note pattern, and then you're back to the 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4. All right, so then you've got pattern 4 of your pentatonic that goes over or underneath pattern 4 of your major scale. And then you've got your A-shaped G chord. With your root there on the A string. Okay, and then we have our last pattern, pattern 5, which will be pattern 1 of your E natural minor scale. There's various minor scales. You've probably heard of melodic minor. You've probably heard of harmonic minor. So there's various minor scales, but the E natural minor scale, the most basic minor scale, is, again, it's the relative minor of G major. So the last pattern of our G major scale patterns is the first pattern of E minor. So we start on that E note here, and we have 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4. After 2 of the 1, 3, 4 pattern, we know we always have the 2-note pattern. So 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 4, little hand shift there, and another quick hand shift, 1, 2, 4, and then back to the 1, 3, 4. And of course, you'll notice everything starts over from your open strings, start over at the 12th fret. So, because there's only 12 notes. If you do the math on those, the A through G with an extra note in between each one for the sharp and flat, remember? And then there's none between B and C and E and F. Well, the math is 12. That's 12 notes. So there's only 12 notes in all of Western music, but we can make so much gorgeous music with it. It's a beautiful thing. So you've got your E minor pentatonic under that, which is your 5th shape of G major pentatonic, which is... And then you've also got your G-shaped G chord, which is a funny thing to say, but anyway. You'd normally never play this whole chord at once. You'll normally break this chord up. It's an awkward, to try to grip this whole G chord like this. It's very, I was muting strings. It sounded awful. So normally there's a chord, or that's also in your A position. You can play that. And then you have that you have that pentatonic under there. And then you're... And so that's your 5 patterns. And then you've got your pentatonic patterns under each one. And you've got your cage chord under each one. And you probably want to practice them together. So anytime you're playing your 3rd pentatonic shape, then go right into your 3rd major scale shape. And then you might want to play that cage shape C chord. Do that with each one of these patterns. So play the pentatonic, play the major scale shape. Again, I want to encourage you, it's going to take a while to get these under your fingers, but once you do, it's going to open up a whole world to you of freedom on the fretboard. And you're going to love it. It's going to make you so happy because that's what you're looking for, is freedom on the fretboard. You want to be able, don't you just want to be able to kind of sing it in your head and hear some cool riff and just do it? This will be instrumental in getting you there. Just knowing these won't get it. Then you got to know what you're doing with them. You know, they're tools. Think of them as tools, and you got to learn how to use these tools. So again, I hope that's helpful for you. If it is, please like, subscribe, comment, put your questions down below if you can think of anything. I did put up that jam track. It doesn't sound as good as I would like it to, but it works. You just need, some chords to play over. You can use that with these chords just like you did with your pentatonics. It's a 1-5-6-4. So it's a G, D, E minor, C. And you can practice soloing over that, and you can just play the scales over it. It's fun. Just have that playing in the background. If you have some way to, like a sustain pedal or whatever, or a looper pedal, and you can just play a G chord and then play your scale patterns. One cool thing, Joy to the World, is if you start on the one note and you go backwards at the right pace, in the major scale, it's Joy to the World. It doesn't keep going. Anyway, so that's your tidbit of information for today. All right, have a good one. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one.